Let's see how efficient we can be. I don't wait. I mean, okay. I'm going to go ahead and start the recording, Wendy, and then call the meeting to order. Recording paused. So let's see. Okay, I'm recording now. So I'm going to call this regular board meeting, the May meeting of the Santa Ynez Community Service District to order. And roll call, Wendy.
Director Beard?
Here.
Director Jones?
Here.
Director D'Ambra?
Here.
Director Redfern and Director Mueller are absent.
Okay, well, we have a quorum, so we're going to go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Director D'Ambra.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Well, now we are moving on to public comment, and this is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on any items of interest, on any items that are not agendized. So is there anyone here? We have one person actually here, and then we've got a few people on line. Does anyone have any public comments before we proceed? I do not think we do have any public comments, so we're going to go ahead and go to the consent items.
Are there any questions like on the Zoom? Does anybody have any?
It does. Oh, hold it. Maybe. Let me see. I see two on chat. Thank you, Wendy. Okay. Now, very good. We know that at least one person listening is hearing us, so that's encouraging. Okay, so on the consent agenda, we need to take a look at and approve the regular meeting minutes of April 15th, the Finance Committee meeting minutes of April 28th, the Treasurer's dashboard, and that's it. Okay. Why am I thinking there was another special meeting in there?
We don't have those minutes.
Oh, okay.
We'll see that here.
Okay, perfect. Okay, then are there any questions on items on the consent agenda? Any changes? And we now have Director Redfern is now present also. Right now we're at the consent agenda. Looking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes of April 15th, the Finance Committee meeting minutes of April 28th, the Treasurer's dashboard. And that is it. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion by Director Beard, a second by Director D'Ambra. Wendy?
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. We have a motion by Director Beard, a second by Director D'Ambra to approve the consent agenda as presented. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Beard?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director D'Ambra?
Aye.
Director Redfern? Motion passes.
Okay, now we're going to move on to the action items. The first one is 6A, and this is a refund out of agency agreement for 2501 Jannon Way, and I will let our general manager address that.
Well, Wendy prepared this one, and for that whole work out, I'll let her go through details.
Yeah, so 2501 is one of our out of agency agreements that we did back in June of 2019. Your board approved the resolution 1908 approving the out of agency service agreement. And because the property septic tank had failed, and the district's line runs right out in front of their property. However, we discovered that Caltrans has a 70-foot easement that goes from the 246 edge up 75 feet to their property. And we also have 2401 Jannon Way do an out-of-agency agreement also, and through that process, they had, contacted Caltrans to find out exactly, how we could, put the line in. And for some reason, they contacted us because they wanted to know why a private person was contacting them about putting a line in Caltrans right away when we should have. And so we said, we were just in the beginning stages of that, and, you know, we were getting plans together, we were gonna do a permit process like we always do. And, because they were told about the project from the property owner, Caltrans responded to, and I'll quote them, in October of 2019, Caltrans will only allow one sewer connection in the SR 246 right of way for the Jannon Acres area. Sewer collection would need to take place with a lateral on Jannon Way, which can be connected to the sewer main located on the SR 246 right of way. Once an encroachment permit has been issued to Caltrans to SYCSD. Multiple connections within the SR 246 right of way is not only against utility and encroachments policy, but will seriously degrade the pavement. So the position and statement policy from Caltrans meant they will not issue a road encroachment permit to the property owners to connect to the SYCSD main line. However, they would issue the SYCSD a single encroachment permit to construct the main line extension going up entrance way to Jannon Way and then going down Jannon Way. So then because of that new change, in November 2019, we brought it back to the board, and you guys voted to not to exceed $7,000 to find a sewer solution for them, because Caltrans also wouldn't allow multiple connections like through the easement behind their property. We did that. The Cannon Engineering finalized the plans, and to date, the district has spent $1,414 of that $7,000. So, before we moved on and brought it back to you guys, we told the homeowners to contact the Marcelina Water District. And there's still a question of whether it's an HOA and the water district or just the water district, because all those roads are private. And so Mrs. Zoki contacted them, and they were not even interested in getting sewer in there. They didn't want the roads torn up. So that killed the project. So she had requested a refund. So I gave her a refund of all but the $3,500, and that was like $9,555. And so she asked why I had back the $3,500, and that was for the admin fee that was listed in the out-of-agency agreement. And that's to cover engineering costs, staff time, and Rick's time for drawing up the out-of-agency agreement. And if you guys remember when we did the second one, at 2401 Jannon Way, we talked about, should we charge them $3,500 because it was more money to develop the out-of-agency agreement, but yet the second people, should they have to pay the $3,500 because we're going to spend the time alone because we already had it? So we opted to charge them $1,650, and they also asked for a refund, and so I held their administrative fee as well. Never heard anything from them. So Mrs. Zoki asked what it was for, so I responded to her what those costs were, and she emailed back and suggested that the district hold back 5% of the total. So her total costs were $1,503, and she suggested that the district hold back 5% of that, which would be $675. So It's up to you guys to determine, do we give, yes,
Wasn't our cost 4,000 for each one of those parcels? Didn't we spend 4,000 of district money?
yes, so her total costs were $4,380.
Her costs or our costs? What did the district
Our
spend?
costs.
Our costs, yes.
Then why are we refunding her any money? I don't understand.
Well,
Well, we're not.
we're not,
That's, the property owner said, I could not make this connection to your sewer line, it's not my fault.
I
And
understand.
she's correct on that.
It's not ours either.
I agree. And we let her know that. She still asked to be heard by the decision makers, which are your board. Our position, staff position was, no, you pay the money. That was what the agreement said. Regardless of if you're terminated the agreement because of no fault of your own. The agreement talks about termination due to, they simply terminate, make a discretionary decision. That was not the case. So she wanted to be heard by the decision makers, asking for some amount of not holding back the $3,500. But yes, we spent more than that, and we spend more than that on all these annexations that we did. We're working one on Sienna Way now,
But it's not our money. It's the district's money.
Correct.
Which means it's all these families.
that's right.
So these families have invested into the promise of her hopefully getting her sewer, which she also invested in too. And it, through no fault of ours, failed.
That's correct.
Why does the district now take on all of it?
You don't have to.
Right?
Yeah,
Well,
you have no
that's my
obligation
point.
to that. Our obligation was the property owner wanted to be heard, and she felt she's been wrong, and she clearly did not understand. Well, she claimed she did not understand that if it was no fault of hers, that she wouldn't get it all back.
I may on the side, you mentioned Sienna Way. You said we're out of,
Well, we're working on one annexation that's gone through, 3 more that are standing by to go through annexation. And staff, my operations supervisor is spending time and effort to try to get them to understand how to connect to the CSD system. And this will occur every time, as long as we keep doing one house at a time, one house at a time, one house at a time. It's just time and effort.
We can't make a standard packet that we can hand the homeowner to say, this is what you're looking at, these are the steps. This is most likely the connection you're looking at.
I think we can, going forward, a more standard out-of-agency agreement. Sienna Way is not that. But what it is just, it's individual discussions with homeowners on how to connect to the sewer line.
so we went for the benefit of them, reached into our pockets pretty deep. And now they're saying, we would like our money back, their portion. I personally think I'm not, personally, I wouldn't give it back. That's all I feel.
Well, I think legally, we should not. I think we have an agreement, and Frank is right. Everything that has been said is true. I would like to mention a couple of things that were striking me when I was hearing the report and looking back. I just want to make sure that as a district, we are giving clear information to people when they have these requests.
So we don't have this.
Yes, and I'm excited about our new general manager because I'm thinking that, he may get a big plan here because, our interim has been kind of in the putting out fires and cleaning up messes mode. And maybe if somebody comes in with a big vision of, and a lot of experience, we might be able to tighten it up there. But I was a little concerned that we have property owners calling Caltrans and we did not have anyone here contacting and seeing what the possibilities were. And I just want to make sure that we did not lead these people to believe something different. I think it's really clear what the rules are. And yes, sorry, we did the work. We incurred these costs and you're responsible for them. But the part where it got a little dicey for me is that Caltrans knew nothing about it and we hadn't checked what we could do before we offered as a possibility to the homeowners. That's my only thing that, you know, where I'm trying to see all sides of this. I can see why the homeowner might feel a
Well,
little
we could throw
confused.
we could throw that at the previous general manager. Okay, to me, that would have been his responsibility as the liaison between Caltrans and the people out of agency to work out the issues to relate to the homeowners, so we all had clear, accurate information, and that would possibly eliminated this.
That's the only thing.
And this was the first time that we had ever, and Craig can even elaborate on it because he's the permit process. But we've never been like had this issue with Caltrans before. And we couldn't, you know, Craig he was getting everything together to what we normally do with the permit and all of that to send to Caltrans. But the other homeowner kind of jumped the gun on us. Because there were, you know, it's not just something that you say, oh, okay, we're gonna apply for a permit. You have to read the requirements, and you have to get this whole package together and send to Caltrans. And it turns out that they had all these specific limitations, I guess you'd say, with the speed there, and Mike Kilburn was the one who actually discovered that easement went up to 75 feet, and because of that, then it kind of puts you into this other category. But then, even at the end, wastewater utilities are exempt from it, so it was this much bigger project than what we had anticipated because of all the requirements that Caltrans had set.
Well, I'm just wondering if there is a way that we can be knowledgeable about that before we take thousands of dollars from people.
Yes.
We should apply it, like you said, maybe a basic protocol in the future. That doesn't mean that there's going to be a lot of things coming at it from different angles that we didn't anticipate then, that will, you know, I could see that being a progressively continuing issue on stuff like that, because it's very vague. Each situation will be different. You can get one Caltrans manager you deal with Monday, oh yeah, no problem, we'll take care of it. And then Tuesday, next day, well, you know, he can't do that, he spoke out. You know, that's also a bag of worms.
Well, generally speaking, whether it's homeowners coming here saying, what's this about an annexation or whatever it is, it's never like, well, they shouldn't have sent that first, isn't the good answer. That's not the good answer. So it's a learning experience, and it's another reason why I'm excited to have somebody who's coming in with, I'm impressed with the new GM's communication style, and maybe we can take some of these problems that we've had, and he may have an approach based on his experience to make sure it doesn't happen again. But clearly, we cannot pay for customers' legal fees and engineering work. I get that.
But because we did apparently fumble the ball again, maybe we are responsible for some of it. Maybe we should pay for our give it back half.
I am not clear that we fumbled the ball, but it's just something that I've heard.
Did because he never contacted Caltrans, who would have told him it's not a possibility unless we do this other route.
I mean, was that done in a timely manner, or did the homeowner jump the gun and contact them without? I mean,
The homeowner jumped the gun and contacted them and started like they called us up immediately and said, why do you guys have a homeowner calling us about connecting into our right of way? It's like, whoa, hold on. We don't even know anything about that, and Greg can elaborate on that.
The homeowner had a friend that was a contractor.
Yeah.
And he asked him to come out and see what it would cost. The contractor took it upon himself to contact Caltrans
But Caltrans didn't know anything about it, and I'm just saying, if we as a board are in discussions and we know we're headed a certain way, I would like to have the GM, you know,
So that
Be a-
happens within a few days of
Exactly.
the
It
meeting.
was merely an inquiry to us by the homeowner, is there sewer nearby? And we said yes, and then he contacted his contractor to jump the gun and go.
So we're
we had not voted already. We had not authorized the funds yet. We had not accepted money from them yet.
Hadn't you done the other property?
No, the other property was second. So they came in after this property. So we had her property done, but we hadn't had his property.
I don't like the idea of giving something of it back. To me, that's an admission.
Right.
We didn't do any,
I think I'm not for giving any money.
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah,
I am not either, because the precedent it sets, and we're following the law, and we're giving money that doesn't belong to us. We're giving the district's money.
Greg made it
Yes.
clear that it was actually a problem.
you know,
People jumping.
if I recall correctly, they were in the back a couple of meetings. They were very knowledgeable, and presence. There's a presence to them. They could be heard, and they were knowledgeable and assertive in what they wanted to do and to get it done, because this is going to be, Solvang had to sign off on this because it's in Solvang's district. And there was just a lot of things that hey, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it, was kind of the attitude. Just they wanted us to cooperate with them. That's the impression I got.
They were very anxious to get it done. I don't know how much conversation they
We
had
put
had
out
with
more money
district
than the
staff.
$3,500, so we're at a loss too. So I make a motion now.
I'll second. the
Okay,
motion.
that's all we need. Yes. Okay, so
Any public
yes.
comment?
Is there any public comment on this?
So
Yes.
those are your question and answer.
Okay, Q&A, nothing going on there. I still have the same 4 people up. So what we have is Director Beard made a motion to not refund the money that we spent on engineering and legal fees. It was seconded by Director DeAmbra.
So we'll do. So Director Beer, motion to not refund any money to the out of agency property of 2501 Way, Director DeAmbra seconded. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Redford. Aye. Director Beer.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director DeAmbra.
Aye. Food for thought here, maybe we could, when you contact them via the mail, we explain that the reason being we had exceeded costs far and above what they're requesting. And our intent was to help them, and it wasn't our fault, it wasn't their fault, but we both, just try and clear it that we're losing money here, because I'm sure they probably could interpret, well, you're just keeping our money. Well, that's not the case at
Right,
all.
we spent money on engineering, we spent money on
Yes.
legal, and then we're not adding it up, but the hours that staff spent, both before, during, and after is considerable.
I just
So
think
that
that's-
is a loss, yes.
I just think that's worth putting into verbiage. What's your thoughts on it, guys?
I'm gonna agree.
Yeah.
Direct staff to do that.
That or let it.
Okay, thank you. And we will move on to the next action item, which is Horizon Drive Mainline Project Update, and I will turn that over to John.
On March 18th, your board directed staff to begin the Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan process for the mainline extension to Horizon Drive. And then on April 15th, your board at the meeting discussed a survey of residents to both Horizon and Stadium Drive to try to find the better overall idea of the residents' interest in this mainline extension, primarily Stadium Drive, but Horizon also. There had been no outreach to Horizon Drive since like 2004, actually coming over. There was some outreach in 2004 about sewer.
You mean
Drive.
stadium, yes.
Stadium Drive, years ago. And they said no. And then finally, at the last meeting, your board asked for discussion about the alignment of the proposed main line and the resulting cost. And your district engineer will discuss that. I'll kind of tackle it first too. In regards to the survey letter, we did put together a survey letter. It's attached for your board review. It will be mailed to all 60 residents on both Horizon and Stadium. It will be the response will be either via mail or online. We use an online survey tool for that. The purpose is to get feedback from residents. a public meeting is a great idea, but right now with the social distancing and the COVID-19 avoidance of gatherings, a big public meeting is definitely problematic. Once this thing continues further and the social distancing loosens, I would recommend that we do have some level of a workshop, a meeting or / workshop. The letter, as you can see, does provide a brief history of the project, general cost items, and some septic tank details. Santa Barbara County Public Health, Environmental Health did look over the letter. We asked them to look that over in regards to what we talked about about septic tanks. They generally softened the language that we initially had, but still provided some very broad estimates of septic tank repairs and replacement. The staff with this letter is trying not to, I think with any survey, you have to be careful not to threaten a homeowner. Sewer's on the way. We need your survey. No one wants to respond to that survey. So we're trying to get some basic information, primarily, are you interested in the community sewer? If you were to be interested, would you be interested in the payment plan or paying cash? We provide a very big range of the cost of the final sewer project, because we don't know what it is. The environmental health also provided us language that they actually have in their notice to correction that they give septic tanks at sale, which was interesting to see. That's notice of correction. And this language that they say in here that they gave to us, that's not included in the survey. The language says that if sewer service is available within 200 feet, homeowners must connect to the sanitary sewer. And any change to the septic tank requires a permit. I did not put that in the survey because that's not our law. We're not a regulatory agency.
That's a state law.
Yes. But again, you put it in, I'm looking for board direction, but we put that in the survey, and it sounds like we're saying, I'm gonna put the sewer line in, and then you're gonna have to connect.
It has people are going to be threatened by that.
Yeah.
It's good information, and it was tempting to put that in the survey. Oh, by the way, everyone, if this line goes into your street and you need almost anything done to your septic system, you're not going to be able to do it.
I take issue with this statement, more than $70,000 for a new lamp system.
That's the number they gave us.
Who gave us that?
San Jose County Environmental Health System.
Well, I know of no case.
Sure.
That's a big number.
What page are you on?
Page 2.
That's a big number. And I thought the number should be 60 to 70.
We could, I just personally saw that pops up.
That's the number they gave us.
I could put, it just doesn't sound right to me. It's possible. I would say it's highly improbable. And what you don't want to do, again, you don't want to scare people. That's just not a conducive way of doing things.
I think when we look on a side note, and I don't disagree with you, you know more about septic systems than I do. Never have them. But this is our last agenda item. This is Loki. She said she has to put an advanced septic system in. Know what's the fair cost?
I think it was like $60,000.
$60,000.
So the advanced
60,000.
systems, they're expensive.
And then I had.
Yeah, the new system. I've just never seen, every time I see it keeps going up.
I had a call from the property that's directly across from the Sienna Way entrance.
Mhm.
And she just bought a house there, and the septic tank failed, and she said it's costing her $80,000. Well, now privately.
Mrs. Schneider?
I don't know the
Yeah.
lady's name.
Yeah.
We can put any number in you want.
Yeah.
That's the number.
Okay, I just,
I think it's in range, because I know what the new systems cost. I just had to put one in a property in Montecito.
a new style, a lamp style, what'd that cost?
It was about 86,000.
86,000
But we had a long
run.
long run too. Yeah, and it was on a big slope.
Hmm.
You know.
Okay, so that's Put it in there. I just, flag went up when I saw that.
Yeah, the letter is, it's up to your board. Try to talk about the background, give citizens an understanding about the background of this project, kind of septic system, which DHS or environmental health gives information on, the project we're trying to undertake, the challenges of the project, the primary challenges. You could be spending $700,000 for a capital improvement project, and no one may come, or very few people may come again. That's a challenge. So we're trying to get more information on that. And then if they see that a septic tank could cost them this, and if theirs fails, and the sewer lines in the project, in the ground, they're gonna have to connect.
Yeah, but then, again, that's throwing a tremendous volume of our resources out for no return on investment under the assumption at some point in time, they will hook up. Meanwhile, that money is dead.
Yes.
And that's just not a conducive way to do business.
The other alternative is don't pursue the project.
Well, let's see what they say then. And, is there a better way to, without offending them and trying to, we want to attract them, have them be receptive, but anytime I see spending money, I'm not real receptive.
It's something that has to be addressed, but
Yes.
they need to buy into it. It
Yeah.
can't just be because we think it's a great thing to do and one person wants it.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality. So that's why the workshops,
I think
talking
right
and having
now,
people
I
get
think we have
information.
4 or 5 that said that actually need it
On Horizon.
on Horizon.
Yeah,
Yes.
right in there.
And we have 6 that actually need it.
So with this survey may shrink the project back down to Horizon.
Right.
I was
understand.
referring
And we have to see what
stadium.
stadium's needs are. And if it shrinks it back down to Horizon, it just shrinks it back down to Horizon, and we can look at the stadium again, but plan on,
And hopefully Horizon residents, even those that we've not heard from, will read this and participate. And say, wow, septic could cost that, or these things could go on. I'm gonna now fill out the survey.
yeah. Here's what I don't want to do. I want to make sure we're putting out truthful numbers. That's it. That's the only thing I want to make sure we're doing, and I think we are.
Yeah, and I tried not to put many numbers in here.
Right.
Because we don't know the cost of the project. Environmental health gave me those numbers, which I thought were very wide, 10,000 to 70. A new system, I think, is probably on that higher end.
And we're also living, things are changing and rapidly evolving, and including with the economy. And I don't expect things to get less expensive anytime soon. It's pretty shocking just how quickly certain prices are going up.
If I can make another suggestion on, this is going to be a introduction letter to stadium, yes? If we could, longer things are, the less interested you are in looking at it. Can we break it down, maybe kill a couple of sentences out of each paragraph? What are your thoughts? I mean, you're going to be doing this here, doctor. I'm just.
It's 2 pages, and I tried to keep it short. I could have gone on for 20 pages.
But there's a lot of type there.
There is,
I'm just,
but I think it's good information.
I'm looking for any changes. I mean, talk about the project in 2 paragraphs. I've gone on for not valid there, but I'm trying to the background, a little bit about septic systems, a little bit about what we're trying to do. Costs. I mean, I could get rid of all the costs, but that's everyone wants to know that. How much?
Absolutely.
How much? Yeah.
Well, I think it's good, and the ending is strong, inviting participation, and that's what we need. And when we hear from people, we need to, encourage them to talk to their neighbors, and even people that aren't their neighbors do know somebody who has to put in a new septic, or they can get their own numbers and compare.
can we put a tag on this that we're going to dedicate some time at the next meeting, which would be June, to specifically invite them to come there and bring questions that we can answer face to face with them?
We'd like to, except for the social distancing thing. I mean, the workshop is a better way to get information, but people are still hesitant
Forgot about that.
to
Yeah.
attend.
why don't we wait to see what the feedback is? And then in July, we can plan for that if we don't get a lot of feedback.
See that?
Well-
If we get 55 notices, surveys back, then that's, there's 60 that we send it out to, so that's a pretty
You
good
could say
number.
a workshop will be planned before anything moves forward, something like that.
Right.
Yeah. That's fine.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to, any sentences want to be deleted. I have under background, sewer services are expensive in California. I just had to say that. Because sewer is expensive.
Yeah.
But I could delete that. I have some, operating long-term, operations of sewer systems is capital improvements are paid by the users.
If you say sewer systems are expensive in California, you should also say sewer systems are also carefree.
It's true. They are.
For the homeowner, they're really not a hell of a lot they have to worry about. Flush your toilet.
Once you hook up and pay your monthly fee, it's probably not as expensive in Mississippi.
I'm pretty sure that there's not very many sewer systems.
I've nothing wrong with Mississippi. I've never been there, but I'm sure it's
It's a nice big wood box.
I tried to, just explain that, there's, the users of the project have to pay for it. We can't charge the folks over here for Horizon Drive. That we don't have the money in our bank account to pay for this. We do, but we don't. The money in the bank account's been paid by the existing users. So they need to get paid back if we do this. That's why we don't charge. But yeah, anything? Any other sentences?
No, I do think we're fine because I think, I agree with you, Bob. And I was thinking if it's more than a page, I'm probably not going to read it. And the only exception would be is if it has to do with my property and my home.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's this? And then I get interested. But generally speaking, I agree when something's more than a page in the mail.
I agree too.
They get it, and they see that we're, they're gonna answer the question. They're gonna,
Well, it educates them too.
Right.
So, okay. I just, I try to look at things from a general, when I see things 2-3 pages long, and somebody I basically never heard of or don't know much about, and they've got all this information, I go, hey, I'm not interested in that.
Life is
We
short.
want-
Yeah.
We want to induce them, recruit them.
Do you live in these areas?
Pardon?
I don't know where the board lives. Do you live here in one of these areas?
I live in a van down by the river.
Stop making fun of my
I live
people.
in Skyline Park.
It is near. Bob, both of these gentlemen live, I would say, in the neighborhood of that area. And Frank and I are townies,
He lives on the other side of the tracks.
I do.
He's not getting a survey. You're not getting.
Right.
I'll send you one anyway.
Okay, now, on this item, do we also
Okay,
need to
that-
hear
that's-
from
that's
Mike?
the first item. If there's no changes, the staff will put this together and we'll mail it out. And bring results back. And the second item on this,
Do we have a public comment? or anything?
No, there's nobody, there is somebody, at least one person that wants to discuss it. The engineer is online and also,
you'll, let me just do one other
yes,
item here.
yes.
And then I'll let Mike take it over on the alignment. The other item, just for your board's knowledge, was the state revolving fund loan. So that is in process. And that's a federal money, but it's administered through the states. So there's lots of paperwork, and staff is going through that. We'll need to make a decision before we finalize anything. If it is only Horizon or Horizon State, of course. We need to know the budget and provide the state the project description and details of it. So there's 4 basic segments to this. General information, I've completed that, it's easy. It's everything from who's your congressional district to your legal counsel's name to who will have the signature authority over the contract. And that is usually the general manager. The board would designate the manager and he would be the signature after board approval on everything moving forward with the contract. There's a technical section that requires a report submitted by the engineer that discusses and explains and details out the project. It's more than the plans. And these are for anything from your building a wastewater treatment plant to putting some sewer pipe in the ground. it's generic. There's the financial security section. They ask you medium household income of your community, your current fee structure, the next rate increase, the budget for this project, customer fees to fund the project, what kind of loan you're looking for, 20 or 30 years. And again, we'll have to know if it's Horizon, the stadium, or just Horizon. And then the longest section is environmental, even though we have a small project. The environmental section is 40 pages long. In our case, it should be fairly quick and easy because it's unlikely to have an impact to the environment. And our consultant will go through that and then simply check off all the boxes. No, no, no. And we'll submit the sequel process. I don't think that'll be overwhelming. But board, eventually we need to make the decision on the size of the project. And then once the general manager is known, we'll put his name in as far as the contractor. Right now, my name is keep my name. Anyway. Any questions on the loan? But it's not being held up except for to get more feedback from customers and your board's direction. Which way to go?
And this board wants more information from the customers before we decide. I think, I don't know.
And then the other item was there was discussion at the last board meeting about the alignment. Besides going up Horizon, how do we get the stadium? So I wanted to make sure I brought our engineer on that, just so he could clarify that. So if we do move forward, we don't have to revisit that. Right now, the line will go up new easements that we'll have to acquire, San Dakota property, and others, and then connect to Horizon and then cut over to Stadium Drive. Mike can discuss that.
Okay, are you ready to have Mike talk about his part? Are you there, Mike? Maybe I don't have the button on. Let's see. Allow to talk. Mike, are you there?
All right, looks like
Oh, that's
I'm
Rick.
unmuted.
Wrong person. Let's see. Are you there,
Yep.
Mike?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, now, user
right.
error on my end.
Excellent. Okay, yeah, just real briefly, I can run through these options. I don't know if you guys looked at the packet or not, but I can run through each of the alternatives that we kind of looked at for the sewering Stadium Drive and Stadium Place. Do the printouts that you guys have, are they in color?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, great. So I'll probably, I know the agenda packet had it in black and white, but I'll kind of be referencing some colors on here. So, so basically topography of stadium, it kind of slopes down westerly and southerly, which would make taking the sewer west a great option. But we've got some issues with, at the end of Stadium Place, it's a cul-de-sac dead end and we don't have any right of way beyond there. The only way to get sewer to go back that way would be to go through easements, and we'll kind of talk about that as I go through the options. So when we looked at the sewer options for this, the first thing we looked at, what's the easiest? It would be to take everything from Stadium out to Refugio and south down and tie it in at Highway 246. At the intersection there is a manhole that the Golden Inn put in and connect to the force main to it. So gravity sewer goes from the intersection right there at 246 and Refugio all the way down to Solving. The problem is that sewer right there is fairly shallow. It's only 6 feet or so deep. So if we project our sewer all the way up to the back of Stadium Drive and Stadium Place, using minimum slopes for the sewer, we don't get it to work. It basically would be sticking out of the ground by the time it got over to Stadium Place. So we scrapped that idea. Moved on. The next option I have is option 1B. There is an existing sewer that's in the high school, but we kind of ran into the same problem. We thought, maybe we could tie into this high school sewer, and it connects in further downstream into the main trunk line in 246. But again, it kind of resulted in the same issues. So we
With the shallow shallowness.
Yeah, right. It was too shallow. By the time we got up to Stadium Place, it, you know, would have been 7 feet out of the ground or something like that. So looked at another option. Option 2 was, what if we just take everything and we gravity flow it through the high school? There's a kind of an extension of the roadway in the parking lot that goes from 246 up kind of towards the Jason Way area. Nothing's in there. Could probably be pretty easy an easement from the high school. So we ran that option, calculated it out, and basically the same thing happens. That manhole down at the end of Stadium Place, the sewer only would have been 1 foot deep, and there's no way we could have connected those homes by gravity. So that took us to option 3, which is what I kind of mentioned earlier, is if we gravity everything westerly and we take it through private properties, these are kind of the options that we came up with. I had 4 different options, A, B, C, and D. They all do work by gravity, but there are a lot of easements associated with these options. And looking a little bit closer at the topography, that area where the sewer would flow through, it's kind of up on a knoll, and then there's some low spots in there. So the sewer would kind of go from being, 20 to 25 feet deep to maybe 10 to 15 feet deep, and it kind of went up and down. And we kind of felt that digging 25, 30 foot deep trenches through private property was going to get a little sticky, and getting the easements for them was going to be another challenge. While this did work, it didn't leave any ability to connect or collect sewer from anything further north than Stadium Drive. As you know, we put together the sewer area study, and we looked at being able to get all the people on Deer Trail and possibly Skyline Park and a couple further homes a little bit further to the north. Kind of the intent of the whole west side there was to gravity all that stuff down and tie it in at 246. Doing these options here, cutting through these private properties, all these option 3s, just didn't allow us to get the depth that we needed to actually get to any of those homes further north. So while this works, it would be a cost unto itself, and it wouldn't benefit any other users. So that is what ultimately kind of led us to option 4, which takes everything to Refugio and then down Horizon and then through the easement. So initially the thought was, well, we can gravity everything to Refugio and take it down to 246. And that's kind of the option that's shown in the yellow line here.
I'm trying to understand. The yellow indicates what?
That's a gravity line. So I think that this option, let me see what it is.
Option 4B.
4B, yeah. That was our preferred alignment when we started this project. But we ran into a couple of issues. One was, if we put any sewer in Refugio, we have to repave the entire width of the street. And as I mentioned before, that adds a lot of cost to the project. I think for this particular project, it added a couple $100,000 of kind of unnecessary costs to run the sewer line this way. But that aside, as you take it down Refugio into 246 and we cut over, there's a sewer that crosses 246 already. It's a gravity sewer. In that same area, there's a water line that's owned by ID1. The elevation of that water line was such that we could not cross underneath that water line in that location. So what that did is that raised the sewer up approximately 3.5 to 4 feet. And with that, basically it negated the ability to feed those homes at the end of Stadium Place. Kind of the same situation. I think if you extend the sewer out at the minimum slopes, it was going to be like maybe a foot deep, if that. So what ultimately happened was the sewer was put in, that piece that goes through the San Dakota, and at that location, they were able to get underneath that water line, which gives us the depth that we need to take that sewer all the way out to end Stadium Place.
Mike, question on that. I read through
Correct.
this. This is also the most cost-effective way for AIC, is that correct?
Yes, I didn't go and look at the stadium
I
alternative cost, but I think ultimately it does end up being the
It
most
is.
cost effective. Yeah.
Okay, also a couple points on this. San Dakota, we were told the main coming through there was a reduced size. Do you remember that? It
Yes.
wasn't up to contract. Are you familiar with that? And will that be able to accommodate the flow from Stadium and possibly in the future coming down Refugio? Without
Yeah.
it'll accommodate that. So that's a done deal then, correct?
Yeah, so fortunately, the sewer that they put in the right of way in Caltrans and brought into their property, they sized it. It's actually a 10-inch pipe. As soon as they got underneath that water line, that's when they shallowed up their line and they put in a smaller pipe. So the pipe that they have in that crosses the water line is sufficient size and depth for us to utilize.
Okay, one more point on this. If Stadium bows out, decides they don't want to join, Verizon, I think it's pretty doggone safe to say is a go.
Mhm.
We could just run the line to Refugio and stub it out there for the future. If Stadium wants to pop in and then somebody wants to come down Refugio, we've already, and still run it down Stadium. We can just we can cap it there. Does that
Correct.
make sense?
Yep. Yes, exactly. And that can just be for future use. And if you
Yeah.
ever want to extend the line, sure.
And typically going farther north, it appears the lowest spot I could see was right on Horizon where the line comes heading south to 246. The topography progressively gets higher as it heads north. Is that a fair statement?
That is true, yes.
Okay, so this, I read this, I looked at them all. This looked like it was the easiest, most cost-effective, and also the best way to accommodate future growth. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, that is a true statement.
Okay, okay, thank you.
And I have just one question that I think is probably, this has been put to bed, but using Refugio is out because of the cost of repaving the whole road. And does it matter who owns the road? Like, I think the county owns Refugio, right?
Yes, that is
So,
true.
do they cut us any good deal since they so want everybody to be on sewer? Can, you know?
Yeah, county owns Refugio.
But doesn't the property line go to the center of the road on each lot?
Not on Refugio.
Refugio is unique, I understand, and
As a
owned by
matter of
the
fact, there's a
county.
10-foot easement on either side, there's 20 feet of easement, if I'm not mistaken, on Refugio, both sides. A total of 20 feet, 10 on each side.
I believe you're correct. I spoke with somebody that wants to do trails along the side, and that's where I got my information about being a county-owned road. So I don't know. It sounds like what you've worked out is probably going to work better. I just hated not being able to use Refugio.
Well, we don't, yeah, I think this is a bonus that we don't use Refugio.
Well,
We use minimal amounts of it. I mean,
Right.
just pop it in Horizon and boom, it's done.
yes.
So when we put the last manhole out on Refugio, we put a bench and prepare that with stub out on the outside of it to go north on Refugio.
Exactly. So it's already done.
Right.
That makes sense.
And then you would also do it going south so you could pick up anything coming the other way.
You go gravity from south back.
Well, you can if as long as you go start shallow and go deep. And I'm thinking that you have what is that little? There's another.
Calle del Pico.
Yeah.
Right there.
Mike, do you know the 6 homes? I think he had another way to get to them.
Yes, the stuff that's on Calle Pico, that
Yeah.
actually, if you did extend back from Horizon down to Calle Pico. The sewer is actually deep enough to get those homes on gravity as well. We've kind of looked at some other options for gravitying those houses, and if those homeowners wanted to work something out and have an easement, they could actually take it east and connect into the line that's in the San Jacoda easement. But technically, they could also come down Refugio and tie in at the end of the cul-de-sac there.
I gotta believe it's cheaper going through the back, hitting San Jacoda line as opposed to coming back up Refugio. It's gotta be a lot more expensive doing that.
Yeah, definitely is.
So this plan that you have can basically accommodate everything.
Correct.
Including the Skyline Park and everything north of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so option 4 sounds like the winner.
And it's the cheapest. So, I mean, sometimes things fall into place for you. I think that's, when I looked through this whole thing, I looked at that and said, tough to beat that.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Mike while we have him?
Hey, thanks, Mike. Nice job.
Wait.
It's still, this is Director Redfern has some questions.
Sure.
With this option 4, we can get Stadium Place too, or Stadium Place is out because of elevation?
We can get Stadium Place, yes.
We can get.
Yeah,
Right.
that's how he has it here. That's how he's got it right there.
I saw that, but I didn't know if I understood correctly. I wanted to be sure that I understood.
And if they're not ready now, that's why we stub it out there. And then when they're ready,
And
boom.
then we also have the condos.
Yeah.
I don't think
Those are not in.
On Stadium Place?
The condos we can get to, there's a little stub that goes back behind their pool, basically, that hits the end of, they've got a little driveway at the bottom of their driveway. If they could all gravity to the bottom of the driveway, we can gravity into Stadium Drive.
So what you're saying, Stadium Drive is not going to be an issue to get it over there to Horizon. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Any other comments or anyone online that has a comment? Okay. Well, so here on this item, it's a discussion and we were updated, but do you need anything from the board?
No other direction. I understand there's no direction on the survey letter. Try to shrink it up a little bit. We'll make it double-sided. Not look like one page. Otherwise, no other direction on the survey letter. SRF is moving forward, and if it continues on, that's the alignment we'll use.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? If not, we will move on to item C, which is fiscal year 2021 budget. So I think I will turn that over to Wendy.
Okay. All right, so we met with the budget committee, and one of the big problems when we met with the budget committee is that we didn't know if we were going to receive all our funding from county, because I hadn't gotten notice. And I received notice, and we did receive the majority of our money from the county. We're about like $8,000 short. So that was one of the big questions that we had with the finance committee. So we have solved that. For our rate study for 2016-17, this is our final year that we'll do a 3.75% rate increase. And that will take our single family sewer fees from $73.90 to $76.67. And this, at the end of 2021, we'll have to have a rate study finalized, which Tuckfield and Associates has kind of already started implementing that with the financial plan that we have for solving. Another wild card would be the wastewater treatment plant. When our guys spend their time over there, we get reimbursed for our guys' time, which decreases our expenses and increases our revenue. They're still closed, so it depends on when they reopen, and this current budget year, I have projected that we're going to be spending more time over there than we had. So our revenues decreased slightly. From that, the new GM salary and benefits, that's another question. That'll just determine what we do with the budget. And then the wastewater treatment plant upgrade and actual costs, that's another wild card. They are moving forward with the aeration system and the consulting and the design, but we were told that they will probably do the aeration system upgrade, but they'll postpone the rest of the upgrade due to their lack of funding. It's all been shut down due to COVID. So next year's budget represents a 2% decrease over the budget expenses. The operating revenue is increase of 7%, and part of that is a 3.75% rate increase. And then the district receives the admin fee of 10% above expenses from the tribe and admin fee of 5% above expenses for the wastewater treatment plant. So that admin fee revenue will decrease because we will be spending time over there. Interest rates have dropped. So we were earning probably $53,000 I think year to date that we had for interest. The interest rates were really good, and so we were earning quite a bit of money on all of them. So our interest rate income will probably decrease significantly if the economy doesn't turn around. It's projected that the district will receive $1.1 million in sewer fee revenue next year. And like I stated earlier, we received about $80,000 less than our total revenue for 2020.
But we could possibly get that in the next.
We are guaranteed to get it. The county has said that we will give you until May of next year to pay this April's property tax installment payment without imposing late fees. So basically, they have to pay it by May, and they're going to be penalized because the county for this April had waived that penalty if you didn't pay. So we will receive that money when they pay it.
Just a third.
So,
I would, before you go on, I did not notice that Mr. Battles had his hand up. So Rick, I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see me?
No, but it could be user error. Let me see what these little dots say. No, I cannot see you.
Okay. It's I don't want to bog us down in technology. It's a different format than I've logged on to before. The meeting log on that I used last time didn't work, so I used the one from the agenda. And I feel like I'm a more passive participant under this format. I can't add myself onto the display. But in any case, my comment, actually, I had my hand up for a little while. I wasn't sure if you could see it related to the
No,
prior,
I couldn't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it related to the prior agenda item, so we can wait till you're done with this agenda item and maybe come back to just the one comment I had.
Sure. And I apologize for that.
Quite all right. I know it's a little tricky, and I'm not sure I've logged on in the right way. So I'm going to mute myself again. And then if you want to come back to me when you're done with this agenda item, we can do that.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Wendy?
okay. So our sewer revenue to date, we've received $1,097,313. And we received a sewer benefit fee of $38,006. And this year I projected it to be 37, we received 38, so for next year I projected it to be 38. We won't get a whole lot more than that. The non-operating revenue projected to increase by $4,500 for 2% as compared to the 1920 budget. Property tax should be approximately $180,000, which is 82% of our non-operating revenue. And like I said before, the wastewater treatment plant and tri-academy fees will decrease because of actual expenses. Contract agencies, because I over-projected, we're gonna have $6,540 or 24% contract. No, sorry. So, the contract agency data fees will be increased by $6,540 or 24%. One of those reasons is, I had, projected that we would spend like $50,000. We didn't spend any near that, and since we canceled the contract, we won't get any revenue from, and, the total operation for contract agencies decreased $237,365 or 36% from the 1920 budget. These costs are estimated by actual expenses spent in the previous year, so we have this up and down cycle. And for the expense categories, the first draft of the budget has operating expenses less capital will decrease by $12,167 or 1% compared to the 1920 approved budget. The decrease in expenses comes from travels and meetings, education and seminars and maintenance, feasibility, and no GIS enhancements. And so we see very little flexibility to reduce expenses in the insurance, chemical supplies, equipment maintenance, lab testing, audit, and commit. We're always looking for ways to reduce the operating costs. So for the personnel costs, one of the variables will be the general manager's salary. There's no change in the retirement, and the Section 125 health benefit will increase, but no more than 3.5% for the MOU. The increase is based on the September cost of living index, which we won't know that until we hit September. And the total personnel budget decreased from the 1920 budget by $136,924, or 15%. The decrease is due to less overtime and regular time allocated to the trial. Utilities projected to stay similar to 1920 budget, and same with maintenance and supplies. General and administrative projected to decrease $10,190 or 3% as compared to the 1920 budget. The decrease is due to a slight decline in insurance costs because the district will save $1,400, and then also our work comp costs. That's we get charged based on actual salaries. So if our salaries increase, we get a supplemental bill at the end. If our salaries decrease, then we get a credit back. And then the district doesn't have any debt currently, and we're looking at transferring $403,703 from revenue expense to reserve account. And I will bring the final budget to the board in June. For the capital projects, which is attached to the 10-year CIP, our rate consultant will use this to guide the capital fees. So to go over those projects, we have $300,000 for the solving wastewater treatment plant, the pre-design consultant, so that's for the design of the plant. The costs include $100,000 from this year for our expenses that they've already spent. And another $200,000 for the charges in the 2021 budget. That had expected to have that completed by the 2021. $480,000 to upgrade the aeration system. This is 20% of the total cost of the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project. So like I said earlier, this might be all that they do for now. I'm not sure exactly when they're going to take that to their council to decide that, but that's what Matt
Just deferring it down, did they make a,
had.
did they,
Holding on, yeah.
Yeah, they said they will, once this first section is done, the aeration, which is an immediate upgrade, they need that out. They'll stop design work for the rest. They'll just for 6 to 8 months, wait to get the other project done and then start design work up again. Clearly, nothing else will be done next fiscal year, besides the aeration, immediate aeration. They're deferring.
Okay.
And if you remember, the aeration is the big part of the upgrade that will reduce the electrical cost and make the plant run more efficiently. And then we have 45,000 to replace the 2004 truck. This truck's used to pull a jetter, and it's not four-wheel drive, the one that we're going to replace. So the one that we will replace it with will be four-wheel drive, because some of the spots we need four-wheel drive to get the manholes and pull the jetter. We're looking at 85,000 to complete a portion of the sewer line rehabilitation. This allows us just to stay up on maintaining our lines, making sure that they're healthy. $20,000 for a new rate study. We'll do that we have to have done by the end of next fiscal year. Like I said earlier, Tuckfield and Associates is working on it. So come the new fiscal year, then we'll begin more. Once we finalize the Horizon Stadium costs, then we'll be able to really fine tune the numbers. And then we have $30,000 for the Secretary Treasurer's office space and the General Manager's office space upgrade. I currently need more desk space with more privacy, and to make it ADA compliant, and both of them will include the stand-up desk to make for like health reasons for not sitting so much. We do have a current plan that I need to find like somebody else that does it just to compare the costs. But that will contain panels, and it will extend my area out like 2 feet and put a like a gate to keep people from just walking back. And then the general manager's office will include table and chairs for an office space for him to have meetings. And then we have $40,000 for upgrading software. We're currently using QuickBooks. QuickBooks isn't a developmental software, we kind of like outgrown it. So we go with a software company that is experienced in development.
Is that a one-time cost or is that an annual cost?
It would be a one-time cost, but then you would have support costs.
A new software system could help you do a lot more.
I agree. We got one at the airport a few years back and we overbought and didn't take full advantage of all the features, but we're a much smaller operation there. But there was, the annual fee was getting us also. It wasn't just the one-time cost, but yeah, we need stuff that we can interact with these agencies that have a lot of control over how we move forward.
And the auditors recommend Tyler. I don't have a
That's the software program they recommend?
what?
That's the software they recommend?
And then I have a question. I agree about upgrading the office space, but are we going to wait until our new general manager is here to get some, yeah.
Why do we need a desk or a table in his office or the office there when we have this wonderful room? I mean, the
And that-
district
this room
never
can
had
be-
this when I worked here, and
Right.
now it has a wonderful.
This room can definitely, this room serves as that purpose. But it's also really handy. I have, Craig comes in 2 or 3 times a day, sometimes more, and that's good. And we always sit down and put plans out in front of us. It's not a big thing, you're right. Oh, heck, let's go over here, this office.
So you're saying it's all Greg's fault?
No, it's not. No, we always are looking at something.
No more
and-
plans.
And right now, we have to either, you know, hand over to my with this weird chair that's in there, or we come here.
Mhm.
So, nothing is required. But it's just, if you're gonna remodel the office, get rid of the television, which I've never turned on, and those laid back recliner kind of chairs, which are like, don't belong in the office. And put a couple of straight back chairs with a little round table in front, so you can spread some things out there.
Maybe lose the futon.
Absolutely. Make sure you don't spend overnight.
Well, maybe we could have a little yard sale to
The next
pay for
question
this.
is not to do with furniture or the office. My next question is, why do we need a 4-wheel drive? I don't recall anywhere where there's a 4-wheel drive necessary, that may be across the golf course.
Right?
The off track, the longhorn off track, if we get rain in there, especially at manhole 72, which the only way to access that is to back the jetter down a probably 90-degree incline.
But how often do we have, I mean, seriously, that gets done during summer. I mean, why would you wait till the winter and need a 4-wheel drive for that?
Well, prior to the virus outbreak, there was a significant amount of grease going down that line. We were down there every few months.
So is that a problem with a few restaurants here and grease traps? Maybe we should be going after that instead of, I just wonder.
That jumped out at me too.
I have employees. I have a 4-wheel drive. That truck gets beat to hell by everybody wanting to play with it.
Maybe a truck, not a 4-wheel.
Yeah, I maybe,
Well,
maybe I wonder
I'm
what the
not
mileage
totally
of the truck
against
is
it.
too, but.
If you're gonna buy a new vehicle, buy one that's gonna do everything. It's not that much more to get a 4-wheel drive than it is to get, I mean,
I'd be-
45,000, what kind of truck is it?
We haven't got there.
I know, but what kind of truck is it you're trying to replace? What size truck? Okay, I can tell you right now, my F-150, I paid in 2011, I paid 50,000 for it.
Well, you seem like a guy that likes a lot of bells and whistles, though.
But, right,
And I don't know that we're gonna
For
get
a
the
truck.
TV screen in it.
right, but still, it doesn't matter. 45,000 for a work truck is not that out of line.
It may not be, but I understand asking the question.
Right.
Especially, how often do we use it? We're 800 houses. And if it's something that we really need once a year, we could go to Enterprise and rent one once a year.
Exactly. We're talking 1 or 2 manholes. I just don't.
Right, but what's the difference between a 4-wheel drive and a non-4-wheel drive?
Well,
Right.
I think that's probably gonna end up being something that a manager is gonna decide more than the board, but
Right.
we're doing oversight here. And I'm with you, especially when we're telling people we can't refund any money because this is the public's money and we're trusted with the public's money.
This is
And then we're like,
basically-
we're
the reason
remodeling an
why
office and
The
it's
reason
getting
why
fancy.
this is in here is for a rate study. And this is the wish list for the rate study, basically, correct?
Yeah, the truck was in the budget this year too. It's not being-
No, it's a
Right.
placeholder in a
Right, it's a
sense,
placeholder.
yes.
Been in for the last 5-6 years.
Right.
So it's making sure we have the money to get what we need when we need it.
Right.
But I like the question, do we really need to
I
get
think
biggest
that
best
if
for
you-
800 houses?
If we
Right.
can
No, I
get a
understand.
4-wheel drive for, $10,000-$12,000, yeah, it might be a good thing to have. That's a
Also,
goal.
yeah, 95 Dodge 4-wheel drive with 50,000 miles on it for like $2,000 right now. It's a little ugly, but man, it purrs. It's a V10. Man, the inside of that truck is as pretty as the outside is ugly. But yeah, but I understand having that there. So we had got 40,000 on the
I mean,
books.
we don't need to split hairs over it. This is for the rate study and for a placeholder for if and when we need to replace that roof.
I get that, but I also like setting the tone when we're
Right.
being responsible with the district's money,
Absolutely.
when we're dealing with our customers, but then we're buying iPads we never use and getting top of the line stuff we might use once a year. I don't want to be that bored.
Correct.
City of Bell. Worst case scenario.
Yeah. Okay.
So, any questions on the budget? Any changes to the budget?
The only question that I had also, while I'm being nitpicky oversight person, on the Buellton thing, it shows that we had like a decrease in what we would have been getting, but I wondered if the amount of time we were spending on that is reflected in this.
Yes, yeah, we went, because the amount of time gets reimbursed by them plus 10%.
Of actually being there and doing a job, but I'm wondering about a lot of talking and figuring out and calling back and dealing,
Yes,
that kind of,
was-
that
yes.
kind of
So that will all
the
be-
tedious stuff.
That would be all reflected in like for the actual cost.
You know, whatever cost, whatever revenue we lost, I'm sure it would have cost us more to.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. I know I spent a lot of time just talking about it and kicking it around with people who are on duty, that they would have been doing something else maybe. Okay, so the budget, any other questions?
Should we have another finance committee meeting this month?
If you want to.
And you have more information now.
It could be public attendance and talk about the.
Okay, I have lost my agenda.
Oh, we need, I think Rick asked for it.
Oh, Rick, yes. Are you, I lost him again. Here. Ask to unmute. Are you there, Rick?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so when we were talking about Horizon and the letter that's going to go out and that the survey with the information that was being provided, this isn't something that I've had an opportunity to talk to the general manager about. The issue came up at the last board meeting, but the question is whether you would want to provide to residents that opt for the installment payment plan the same low interest rate that the district gets on its loans. And my thinking there is that under the existing installment payment plan, if somebody wants to defer the payment of their connection fees over time, we let them do that, but we charge them an interest rate that I think is prime plus 1%. And that's so that the district makes some return on the money that it's essentially advancing to those people. And the district isn't out any money in that situation. It's just deferring the payment of the connection fee, but it still requires the owner to pay what it considers to be a reasonable interest rate. In the same way, I mean, you could take that same approach here where, you know, whether you pay for this project with your own cash, your own reserves, or you borrow the money, the person who is electing to defer their payment obligation ought to pay some reasonable rate of interest. And that reasonable rate of interest isn't necessarily the same low rate that the district qualified for. It might be reasonable and appropriate, given the fact that it's going to be a challenge for the district to recover all of its expenses on a project like this, and it doesn't know when it's going to recover all those expenses, to, you know, charge something more than what the district is paying, just because what the district does to finance the improvements doesn't need to relate to what the district charges a property owner to defer the payment obligation. It in a lot of cases, an agency would just require the payment of all fees in cash up front, and in this case, the district is deferring the payment. And so again, I wouldn't necessarily think that you need to provide that lower rate. That's just a point of view for you to consider as you move forward on this.
Does everyone understand that?
I would say that we charge them the rate that we would be receiving on that amount of money if it was in our CD account, so we're not losing anything. As opposed to, like you said, Rick, giving them, they should pay a little premium for the deferral.
Yeah, and your CD may be making you less than you're paying on the loan, rather.
About 1.8 or something.
Yeah, it probably is less. So that would be even a better deal for the property owners.
Yeah.
Five star, but they can't really have.
Okay,
But
1.6.
it drops significantly.
It's gonna probably
Right,
drop again, the way things are in the economy. That's kind of a big question mark.
Also, if I may, the financial plan that was put together that the board saw last month, it's established to where whatever rate we charge, it's set at the beginning of the program. It doesn't change every time a CD changes or the prime rate changes. It's one number.
Right, it's fixed.
It's
We have
fixed.
to fix a number. The reason that it was proposed, and the consultant used the rate that we would be charged. That's how the model is set up. It's the same rate. The board can do anything you want. The advantage to having a low rate is someone might actually want to abandon their septic and enter the sewer system. If it's a viable rate.
Right.
Right now, the prime plus 1%, I mean, it was high. But that's the way the model has to be, which can be done, reestablished. You have to pick a number at the beginning.
I remember when the board adopted the plan, choose to allow for this loan. And it seemed to be a way to help people. And I understand making a little bit off it, but we're not a bank. And it seemed to me like it was sold to the board as a way to encourage people to get on sewer and make it affordable. But I understand.
A deferral amount is basically what it's gonna be, right? They're gonna be
No.
deferring it, so we're gonna charge them a fee, an interest, whatever it'll be for deferring it.
It would be the same interest we're charged on a loan, if we elect to go with a loan. Whatever, the way it's set up, the way it's established right now in the financial plan, is whatever interest we get charged on the loan, let's say it's a $700,000 loan at 1.5%. And a customer decides to join the sewer system in 10 years, they would pay 1.5%.
Yeah.
Same thing we're paying on our loan. So no, it's not an upcharge.
And the reason I make that my point is because if you get that kind of favorable financing, if the district does, then the Horizon Drive people will be paying less in interest than anybody else who uses the installment payment plan, because right now that provides for an interest rate of prime plus 1%.
That's true.
So
But that's something nobody has any control over.
Well,
In the
I think what
future.
Rick is saying, that we can have some control over it. That can be the terms of the agreement that we set, right? Is that what you're saying, Rick?
That's what I was saying, yeah. And I'm not advocating strongly for that position. I'm just observing that our current installment payment plan requires people to pay prime plus 1%. And, it would be reasonable for the district to charge something like that for the Horizon Drive people, rather than giving them the benefit of the super low interest rate that the district gets, particularly because it looks like it may be a struggle for the district to recover its costs in a timely manner.
No, you're asking us to consider it, and it makes sense. I would want to know.
Yeah, we can cross that road. We know that we can charge more if we want to, but
Yeah.
we can cross that when we get to it.
Yeah, and I raise the issue now because that issue is addressed in the letter and the letter that you're sending out. And so once you send out a letter indicating that that would be the interest rate, you might be a little bit tied to it. So one option would be just not to reference what the interest rate is going to be.
Probably not in reference to the interest rate, because we don't know what it's gonna be, and we'll make that decision later.
Eliminate that.
Okay. Anything else, Rick?
No.
I think that's important, so we all understand the
Yeah.
point he was making. Okay. Is there anything else on the budget before we move on to the tax roll? Okay, then we're gonna go ahead and go to item D. And this, now, public comment, right? When I did this before, we need to allow for public comment, and we're also making an amendment to this, Wendy. So how do I need to proceed? Okay,
Okay, so, adopting resolution, 2002, will like to have the sewer fees and charges collected on the tax roll. And it will direct the preparation and filing the report, fixing the time and place for a hearing, and, providing the notice. The California Health and Safety Code, provides for general taxes, sewer service charges, sewer availability charges, certain sewer capacity fees and other expenses for, collection on the tax roll. We have done this, forever. And section 6066 of the government code specifies that a public hearing notice for the collection of sewer fees on the tax roll shall be published in the newspaper of general circulation within the entity. And if one does not exist in such paper published in the county within which the greater part of such district is located. Approving the resolution is the first step in the process for electing the place of sewer fees and other related fees and tax rolls. The next steps are preparing the report, holding a hearing, and then approving the report. The tax roll report is due to the county of Santa Barbara no later than the first week of August. They usually give me a drop dead date, but we'd like it early. The early date is the end of July, with the drop dead date is usually done by the 7th of August. Without approving the resolution, we won't be able to continue the process, and we'll have to begin monthly billing of the sewer fees to customers. And the district financial software, QuickBooks cannot handle. Placing the sewer fees and related charges on the tax roll gives the district a lump sum revenue in December and April, and guarantees the district will receive the revenue, but as we have found out with COVID, sometimes it could be delayed. But it turned out working in our favor, so hopefully we won't have to happen. We do have to make amendment to the date, so it does say 2019-20 in the packet. So we would amend that change, we would amend the change of taking out the vote. And then publishing in on May 28th and June 11th. But one thing that we should decide is, do you guys want to advertise in another paper? We've adopted the public outreach thing. This falls under the normal business. We are required by law to publish it in a regular circulation paper. So we do have to publish it in the San Luis Valley News. If you look at the staff report, I did look at Santa Barbara News Press. It was $192 to run it for 2 times, and the San Luis Valley Star was $60. So if you guys want me to advertise in those, just let me know. If not, then we'll just stick to.
San Luis Valley News is how much?
175.
The Star News is 6. Do they have a greater circulation?
It's free. Like their circulation, you don't have to pay for that paper, so it just goes out valley-wide wherever they drop off that paper.
The Star News?
The San Luis Valley.
Yeah.
yeah, Rise's paper, it's in every
It's a free
barber
paper.
shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, this is a question that I asked early on when I got involved with this board. I wanted to know how many people subscribe to the paper. Because when we say we're noticing thing in a little, you know, couple inch skinny column in a newspaper, we have 10,000 people who live in the valley. How many people subscribe? 600, 1,500? I contacted the newspaper and they were very guarded about that. Your friend who worked there was nice and said, you give me the numbers. And then her boss is like, that is private information and we don't give that out.
That's public.
And that's what I thought, especially because we're trying to notify people. But I think newspapers, especially as they are dwindling fast, they are a little defensive about how many people are willing to pay I know that the news press's circulation was shockingly low. I can't remember the number, but when they gave it to me, I'm like, whoa. Not many people pay to subscribe to newspapers compared to 15 years ago. So anyway, if it's about how many people we want to reach, the Star is a better way to go, maybe. I don't know. But I think,
I would think the Valley News has been here forever. It's free. That's the one. That's. the
no,
one
it goes
thing.
into Thursday.
We have to do that. We don't have to, because it has to be for the government, so it has to be a regular circulator,
And that's the Valley News.
and that's valid.
Yeah.
So if you want to do something above and beyond that, then our choices are the San Barbara News versus the San Barbara.
And we could actually do notice in the news press, but it's more expensive. I've had to do notice for other things, and that's considered a circulated paper in the area. So our best way to go newspaper cost-wise is the Valley News, SYD
And
News.
it's your target market. The
Somewhat, but
Valley-
it's the Thursday paper is the one that is a subscription, and it's far less read than the one they give us on Tuesday.
Everybody gets Tuesday for free. And then there's Thursday, which is the subscription. But that's a target market. The Santa Barbara News Press is the whole county. We don't care about Guadalupe or Carpinteria. We care about the San Ynez Valley. And this is our target market. So I think we should focus there.
I agree, and I'm happy with leaving it. I'm just trying to make the point, even though maybe nobody gets hung up on it but me. I believe that there is a chance that more people have the news press delivered to their house every day than the Thursday paper once a week. I think those are people with kids at the high school and some people maybe who have been here a long time, but it's not. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We won't, I guess what Wendy is saying, is that something that we want to do extra attention? Hey, we're getting ready to notify or put your sewer bill on your tax deal. And I think
Well,
since it's
already been there, it's already there.
it's business as usual. So this isn't like we're taking it. And this is another like small problem that I have on the alternatives considered history. The district has always participated, and no, they have not. And that to me is a kind of a newer change. I used to pay my sewer bill down by the Elks building.
Right.
It was monthly, and this is my memory, and you can correct me, but it seems like it went on the tax bill about the time they built this building.
Yeah, just before.
Okay, well, that's where my brain lines up, and I'm like, I really like knowing how much my sewer fees were, and so I paid at the highest. It started like at 20 something a month. It went up to about 33 before it went to the tax bill. And so I was shocked when I compared our monthly with Solvang's, and I know it's apples to oranges, but we pay over double to flush our toilet than Solvang does. We pay 68, they pay 33.
They get money in the bank. They don't.
Right, and there's some other differences. There's some other differences, but I'm just saying, I like knowing how much things cost me, but this is easier, and why I always go along with this is because it's easier to get our money, and we don't have to have a staff messing with the monthly bill. So I understand why it goes on the tax bill, but historically it has not always been this way, and I don't like to say things that aren't true.
Sorry about that. That's part of my.
For your whole time here, I'd say probably for 7 years or 9 years, but it has not always
But-
been.
Also, maybe the $192 to have it in the Santa Barbara News Press is good money spent helping get it out to everybody. Versus, I mean, the $656 for the Star, I can't see that. But it's not unreasonable to have it in the San Ynez News Press and in the Santa Barbara News. Still half of what it is to have it in the Star,
We could
or
go
maybe
to,
a little more than half.
we could go to the Tuesday edition too of the Santa Valley News. And that's the free one. Or not, I mean, that's an option. I didn't get those costs, but it's an idea.
I like the way you're thinking there, because then everybody has a chance to see it. And I also like what Frank is saying, because we are talking about being more transparent. We just put this policy in. So to do more than the bare
What about
minimum.
Santa Maria Times.
What?
Santa Maria Times instead of Santa Barbara News Press.
I didn't check that, right?
Do you know people that subscribe to that? Yeah, we hang around with different friends, but I don't know anybody that subscribes to the Santa Maria
But
paper.
whether it's Santa Maria or Santa Barbara or whomever, just having Insanity and Miz made, to me, it would be better to say, look, 2 different publications.
Right.
They're both reasonable. Doesn't matter if it's Santa Maria or Santa Barbara, whoever is the most reasonable, but it gets it out there so we can say, hey, look, we are trying to be transparent. We are trying to let you know what's going on.
I
don't
like
have
it.
a
It
problem with putting
adheres
it
to your
either.
policy. Oh, sorry.
I don't have a problem with putting it in either one of them, the Santa Barbara or Santa Maria, depending on.
Yeah, so I would direct staff to go a little over what the bare minimum legal requirement is.
Could rent an airplane,
Yeah.
carry the
do
bag.
that.
Hey, I know a guy that does
Oh,
that.
Or we could have a billboard up front.
So you wanna run it 2 times in either the Santa Maria Times or the Santa Barbara News Press, whichever one's less expensive? Is that a good direction?
It could be, or even compare with the free Tuesday paper. You were paying for it on Thursday, but every house gets that Tuesday in the
Will
mail.
the newspapers tell you what their circulation is here? I mean, if you phone Santa Barbara and you said, hey, how many papers are you shipping out here? And then yes, Santa Maria.
I'm not sure, you know, I mean, the free paper, if it's reasonable, then we can run it in the free paper, that everybody gets that.
More people get the free Tuesday paper
In our
than
local-
Santa Maria or Santa
Right.
Barbara.
Right.
We read it even as we walk to the trash can to throw it
Right.
in.
Okay, so you wanna do it twice in the Tuesday edition of the Santa County versus not doing it in the Santa Maria News Press? Is that what I hear?
I'm hearing
So
something
you
a
In
little
reality-
different.
want- Want 2 times on Tuesday's paper and 2 times on Thursday's paper in the Santa County, correct?
I think we need to, the legal requirement is 2 times in the circulated paper, so we do that. And then I think 1 time in the free paper,
You know, one time. free paper.
and then that way everybody has had a shot to read it, we've met our legal requirement and
The free
offered it.
paper
everybody.
is the San Ynez Valley.
But it's Tuesday and
It's
Thursday, and we're
Tuesday.
required to put it in the Thursday paper because it has, you have to do a paper that has a subscription.
Well, if you buy Thursday, don't you they give you Tuesday?
No.
Okay.
It's a little money maker.
I know when you
for
put
them.
an ad in, you get it, okay, so it's the league, yeah, so they get you there. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's a new thing that we'll try, but just as a way to, so people can't come back and say, I had no idea about this thing. I
Well,
didn't,
see
yeah.
if we get people to public hearing. If we get people to public hearing, okay, then it works. If we don't, well, then we don't care.
Or it will work when
See it.
people come in and complain and say they didn't know anything about something. We can show that we have developed a policy that we follow to do above the bare
That
minimum.
exceeded the minimum.
Yes. Okay, so
Okay,
do you feel like we've been clear on
Yeah.
that? Yeah,
1 Tuesday and 2 Thursdays,
yes.
yes, but you still have to make a motion to adopt it.
I make a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
And did Director Redfern second? Okay, Wendy?
So we have a motion by Director Beard, second by Director Redford to adopt resolution 20-02, looking at sewer fees and charges collected on the Santa Barbara County tax roll for fiscal year 2021. And to start the proceedings to file a report, fix some time and place for the hearing, and provide for the notice. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Redford. Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director D'Ambra. Motion passes.
Very good. Okay, now we're going to go to the SSMP, the Sewer System Management Plan update. And that will
Okay,
be John.
I'll give a briefing on that, and then our consultant is online too, which we didn't actually know to be online, but we might have something.
And that is Mr. Kazi.
Yes.
So the district's sewer system management plan, the SSMP, was originally adopted in 2009. It's been updated and re-adopted in 2014, and today is the 3rd update and re-adoption. The SSMP is formalizing what sewer agencies have been doing for decades, preventing overflows. That's what sewer agencies try to do, not to have sewage come out of the manhole or broken lines or lift stations. But the focus in general of the SSMP is more analysis and better documentation of all things related to maintenance, repairs, or capacity of your sewer system. The actual reporting of overflows has also become much more formal, and it's an electronic report now that must be filed every month, even if you have no overflows. If you do have one, then that also must be reported, depending on the size of the overflow. That indicates the quickness of the response that you have. There's also within the SSNP an overflow emergency response plan that, as it sounds, details how an agency responds to any overflows. And it details all the key elements that are required in the response. The district, your board originally adopted the SSNP at a public meeting, and all future adoptions and recertifications must be done at a public meeting. As I said, or I might have said, every 5 years it must be updated, or anytime something significant changes within the plan, it must be updated. And finally, every 2 years it must be audited. You must do your own self-audit of the plan to see how you're doing it. We did hire a consultant, Paul Tossi, to update our SSNP. He did substantial changes, including a lot of more administrative and paperwork items, operational items, that really are just document better what we do, maintenance and repairs. It's all about the documentation. You know, we, as I think most sewer agencies, have been doing this work forever, but we traditionally don't do well on writing it all down. It doesn't matter if you clean the line 4 times a year, exactly how many, you know how much you clean, you have to write it down and detail it. With Craig and his crew, he's been doing it for 20 years here. He does it well, he knows it, he knows exactly what's going on, but this plan, historically, most plans like this, you have to detail everything. You have to document everything, you have to have a written procedure for everything. And it's a paperwork process that the water board put everyone through. Any sewer agency that has more than 1 mile of pipe has to have an SSMP. The format is the same, whether you have 1 mile of pipe or you're the city of Los Angeles. It's the same format. Clearly ours, hopefully, is less than the city of Los Angeles, but the chapters actually are the same. So it's it requires us to provide more paperwork for everything we do, so that in case something does go wrong, we're able to prove that we're performing what we're supposed to perform. We're maintaining our equipment, we're analyzing our equipment, we're cleaning it, we're repairing it, and we're detailing that out. It is, there's 11 chapters in it. I'll briefly go through them. The first chapter is a goal. What's the goal? The goal is to prevent overflows and to provide the plans and schedules to mitigate the overflows. You have to detail out your organization. How big is your organization? Ours is fairly easy to detail, but it includes the ratepayers, your board, and it just goes down to the manager, the operations crew, and that's detailed, including for the crew, their names and their phone numbers, cell numbers, and of course the office number. The manager is the legally responsible person within the organization, and it's detailed out in the SSMP. You have to detail out what your legal authority is to provide this. Of course, we have our own sewer code. That's a legal authority. You have to document your preventive maintenance and rehabilitation work you might do on your sewer system. You have to provide your design and your performance provisions of the sewer system. Your standard drawings, any kind of details you might have for the system has to be referenced in the plan. As I said again, you have to detail out the training and the response of how the crew responds to an overflow. We actually have had very few of them in our history because of the good job cleaning we do, the generators at the stations, the SCADA systems, things like that. But I got a call from my operations supervisor on a Sunday at 7 p.m. That's never a good call to have. It usually means one thing. And sure enough, we had a little overflow 2 weeks ago. Very small. A customer reported it to us after hours, of course, and crew responded immediately. Craig did. He was on call. We just responded regardless. And another crew was pulled in, and they took care of the overflow very quickly. It was just a few gallons. We estimated it was 10 to 15 gallons. And we found what the cause of the blockage was, and we knew quickly what caused it. We were able to clear it up with the jetter and, restore flow. But that is that's how we respond to an emergency. And then we had to, of course, report that overflow. Another chapter that did have some changes this year was the what historically has been called the FOG program, fats, oils, and grease. Now added in roots. Roots is now an item that does impact sewer lines, and the water board is indicating that it's a good idea or otherwise to have roots, a root program. How do you mitigate roots in your sewer line? There's a system evaluation and capacity assurance plan. Simply, we and our engineers have to ensure that our sewer system can handle the flow during wet weather or any kind of creek crossing. The lines are big enough to handle maximum flow, wet weather flow. There is there's the monitoring measurement program modifications. Again, more paperwork for documenting how you're monitoring, measuring your system. There was an audit that must be done. Our next audit is actually next year. We have to audit to see how we've done on the program. Sometimes you can do your own audit, or you can pull someone else in to do the audit. And then finally, we have to have a way to better communicate our SSMP to customers. Because, we assume our customers are really into the sewer system here. They want to know more about it. So we will put this on our website and make it available to everyone. We also have to either give the water boards our website so they can look at it. They do not want the thousands of sewer agencies in California mailing in SSMPs to them continuously. The water board does not approve. They don't review it. They do. You must tell them that it's been approved tonight, and that it's available, and send them, or you can send them a copy. Otherwise, our consultants on the line, if I can give you any more information on SSMP, or Craig can. He's been living in, he really put the program together. I'm just here to put the ice in.
Questions?
It's like the evacuation plan when you rent a hotel room. It's like every other plan, and it's got to be there, and everybody needs to be familiar with it. So we can go to, can you hear me, Mr. Kazi? And am I saying your name correctly?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you well.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and take over?
Well, I don't know that I need to do much. I think that was a great overview. The only thing I'd like to do is compliment the staff for all their assistance on getting this thing put together, completed. They provided their information in a real timely manner, even though we were all working from either home or sheltered in place. But I think the document that you currently have meets the requirements of the state's waste discharge requirements. And I think we would recommend that you go ahead and move forward with the document. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I have one suggestion for you, and that would be in your resolution. Item number 2 on the be it resolved says to authorize the district manager. I would add in there, and the legally responsible official needs to certify. So authorize the manager to transmit and the legally responsible official to certify the document at the state of California. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has about the production of the document or the background of the regulations, which I've been working on since.
I have a question for you, sir. What is the minimum gallonage that must, at what point does it get reported? It's got to be on a gallonage number. What is it?
There is no minimum number. Currently, anything that's spilled that is released from a sewer infrastructure must be reported to the state of California. And currently
1 gallon.
1 gallon, yes.
Wow.
Any measurable amount. It's like a commercial driver's license.
So this is actually worse than hazardous materials, because this is health violations.
Well,
1 gallon.
I mean, it's serious stuff. I would rather be subject to an oil spill than a sewer spill if it's getting on me, frankly. It's kind of a big deal. And now we know that COVID is present in effluent, and all kinds of stuff is. So
Have they proven that now?
yes. Yeah.
I'm not sitting down on a toilet ever again then.
Gonna have her like most of the women do.
You're an expert. I do have one question for I don't know if this is for a general manager or for Mr. Kasi, but is this an audit or is this just the approval?
This is not the other.
And then would somebody like Mr. Kasi do an audit, or would it be, you said somebody on staff can do their own audit?
You could self-audit, or you could have an engineer, or maybe Mr. Costi could audit it. He basically will come in and say, what have you done? And show me that you documented.
Okay, so right now, with this resolution, we will have an updated plan and it will need to be reviewed in 2 years and next year, okay, and then redone in 5, okay. Okay, so I think I have an understanding there. So,
Can you ask him what his recommended change was?
yes, can you repeat the number 2, therefore be resolved, number 2, authorize the district general manager and something about, and his legally, legal rep.
And the legally responsible official, which is, as I understand it, Craig Kapner, to certify the SSMP and to transmit the adopted and updated SSMP to the regulatory agencies as required. And I'm happy to send that to Wendy if that helps.
Sure.
The speakers on that are inadequate. I could barely hear.
Well, it's a shame everybody doesn't have my volume.
We need to plug in.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll be real meetings sometime soon. Okay, so do you have any other questions before we entertain a motion? Is there a motion to accept our SM? Yeah, okay, let's see. I need a resolution or a motion to adopt resolution 20-03 approving the update of the SSMP. And yeah, there was no public discussion. We're done discussing it. So would somebody make a motion to approve the updates of the SSMP?
I'll make the motion to approve the updates of the MSMP.
And do we have a second? Okay, so we have a motion from Director D'Ambra and a second from Director Beard. Wendy?
So we have a motion by Director D'Ambra and a second by Director Beard to adopt resolution 20-03. He will do a roll call vote. Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director D'Ambra.
Aye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cossey. And thank you, Craig. Okay, now we're going to go to action item F, which is a certificate of deposit. Wendy?
All right, so we have $150,000 plus interest CD that has come due. And we have resolution 1401 that was approved by your board on May 21st, 2014, authorizing the deposit of funds from LIF or Rabobank into certificate of deposit. We did have, I think it was in January, we had one CD come due and your board voted to put it into the 5-star account because at the time the CD rates were less than what the interest rate was. But then the economy crashed and our interest rate now is less than what the CD rates would have been for that $150,000. So that's something to consider. Except for the First Bank CD we can get, which is the local bank, which would require opening up a new account and having the board go in and sign on the signature card. That's paying 0.07% for 13 months. Mechanic Banks is paying 0.50% for 5 months. The Bank of the Ozark and the Westfield Bank, those are two CDs that we get through Cantella, which is our broker. One is paying 0.30 for 15 months and 0.35 for 18 months. First Bank is currently paying 1.6% interest for the month of May. It's always good to have a diversified portfolio. So if you guys want.
So, I don't know if you have a question, but I'm wondering, because we don't want it all in one, but that one account is the one with the best interest rate.
Correct.
So, and we're talking about 150,000. So what is our next highest? Is that the local bank?
Mechanics Bank is a special CD for 5 months. That means in 5 months it will renew again, and it might not be that rate higher.
I mean, it's on the corner. The rate's better than the other ones. I'm interested in what other people think here.
What's the rate they're gonna give us?
How much money do we have in the bank?
We have like 3.9 million,
Okay.
and that money is compounded. The interest is compounded monthly.
Keep the money in there. That's what we're gonna make in this money. It's federally insured to a certain extent, and it's not gonna go anywhere. I say we keep the money in the higher interest rate, and if CDs change, we can transfer 300,000. You know, what we put in there the last time and this time. Right now, the CD is financially, this is over double, triple what we would be earning from a CD, and you're locked into that CD if you need cash.
What's the time frame on that?
We have one for 13 months, one for 5 months, one for 15 months.
So right now, because everything's crashed, the long-term CDs that we're locked into are to our benefit.
Why?
Because the rates have come down substantially, and the CD rate is guaranteed through the length of the commitment.
What I'm saying is we can revisit it. I mean,
Yeah, I'm gonna say, yeah, what you're saying is fine, but what I'm saying is we locked in previous CDs at a higher rate. Since that time, the pandemic, the economy has crashed, and the interest rates are down next to nothing, 0.101.
do you remember what they were last time?
1.6 is current for 5-star right now.
Current.
Yeah.
And
That's this month.
Yeah. And then in January, the CD rates were like 2.2%, but we were like getting like 2.4% for 5-star. So
they're all collapsing. They're all coming way down.
I have a question. Is this something that was discussed in the finance committee meeting?
no, because we didn't know.
But only one of them is renewed, is that right?
We only have one. We transferred the other one into the 5-star bank.
Because we were earning more interest at 5-star. Yeah. I still think right now they're paying more. I think it's, if you want to split it, put 75,000 into a CD.
Let's just do it all. I mean, I think it's just, we're starting to fragment it out and getting tentacles on it.
Well, that's, I'm interested in, Wendy, what is your recommendation?
Well, the interest rates aren't great in the CDs. We earn more money in the 5-star account, but it's not, diversified.
But it is insured. Is it?
The money's insured anywhere. That's why we do 150. But with 5-star, they have to have 110% of over our 110% our money. They have to. So if we have 3.89 million, they have to have 110% of that 3.89. because that's how our money is protected, because it's the government account.
I didn't really understand that,
Yeah.
but I'll take
So
your word for it.
instead of having it insured by FDIC, they have to insure our money by having 110%
Okay, it's like,
of more of our money than.
And I
Okay.
say- right.
okay, but I understand.
I say leave it in the five, put it in the, leave it in the 5-star for now, or put it in the 5-star account for now.
And I can check with him and, on a monthly basis, see what the CDs are.
Right, if the CDs go back up, or if it's, reasonable, leave it in the 5-star, and then if we get back up into the 2% range on the CDs, I think we can move it into the CDs.
Do you have an opinion, John?
Oh, no, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
It really, this was brought forward because we found a resolution that said that the board will make decisions about CDs. Before that, staff just did. I said, wow, there's a resolution that says these we bring forward to the board.
Yeah.
I mean, in the past, I've invested money just in the labor account, local agency investment fund. In California.
Yeah. And we can put it back in there.
They don't have to listen.
What was that?
No.
And
We
what's
can
your
put it back in LAIF, but their interest rate is compounded quarterly, and we only have $100,000. And their interest rate is better than this. I don't know.
5-star is better, I say leave it in 5-star.
You
Okay,
need a second? You got it. Here's-
yeah. So we have a motion from Director Beard and a second from Director D'Ambra.
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Beard and a second by Director D'Ambra to transfer the CD money to 5-star.
Yes.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Director Redford.
Aye.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director D'Ambra.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, now we are going to go to 7, Manager's Report.
Okay, we already actually discussed the Solid Wastewater Treatment Plan and their deferring of the bulk of their project, which will pass next year. And we'll back over that again. Other items of interest not on the agenda would be, we were offered free face masks by the California Water Wastewater Agency Response Network, CalWARN. They were offering these face masks to all utility companies, water wastewater companies. And it was funded by FEMA, and there was some state funding, but CalWARN was the agency that was gathering these masks and putting them in, you could pick them up through CalWARN. So if it's free, we signed up for it, even though we have face masks for the crew. We actually bought a couple boxes of them. These were free, so we went ahead and did it. Unfortunately, the closest pickup location for us was either Long Beach or Visalia. Clearly, we were not going to drive to Long Beach or Visalia to pick up masks. However, the city of Buellton, our friends in Buellton, did drive down there, and they took everyone's order together, and maybe they were there for another reason, and collected the masks for all the local agencies that are part of CalWARN. And so that was a good thing. It is interesting to note, though, the CalWARN program, as I mentioned, it's the California Water Wastewater Agency Response Network. We're not actually a member of that. That's a network you belong to. There's an MOU signed by cities and districts and otherwise, that if there ever is an emergency, in our case, the common ones would be earthquake or fire, where things are breaking everywhere. You're running out of staff to keep it going. CalWARN is a system you belong to. Well, it's a mutual aid system. Other agencies can come to your assistance. You already have an agreement with them. You already have a relationship with them. We have those kind of relationships with our local cities, but it's not nearly as formal as this, even though this is not that formal. The agencies always have the ability not to respond. I'm too busy too. Earthquake hit me too. But it would be something we could consider joining. There's no cost to join. It's just Solvang is the number, obviously, Buellton is, I think ID1 is. We're not. So it would be something that staff can look at to join the Cal War. With the pandemic going on now, it's not that much of an issue, but clearly, once the big earthquake hits California, sewer and water lines are breaking everywhere, you're gonna want as much help as you need.
I know when it's going to happen.
Oh, okay, give me that.
Yeah, well, as soon as we pay our house off,
Yeah.
that works.
Can you give me a notice?
Yeah.
How soon is that? Don't pay off.
I'm
If it's my
protecting
house, I
everyone.
wouldn't be too worried if you got some time.
Yeah, I do have some time.
So that's Cal One. The other one was, I think I mentioned it also, was the Intertribal Council of Arizona. The Chumash tribe is moving forward with the designating the Intertribal Council of Arizona, or ITCA, as their certifying body for water and wastewater treatment certification. And it's ITCA is EPA approved for water treatment, and they're adding wastewater and another certification and training and experience that you get folks that work on tribal lands. The states do not certify tribal land water or wastewater systems. So ITCA is an opportunity now that our employees will have to get training and actually get certified in wastewater treatment.
Okay. So then we shall move on to,
Wait,
oh,
I do think that we should think about joining, joining this outfit.
Cal War.
Cal War.
oh, I think we will, and I think it will be on a future agenda item.
Yeah, I think we should
I'll
put
leave
that
that.
down.
I'll leave that
Yeah.
note for the new general manager.
Right.
Yes, but it will be something we will have to have on the agenda and then vote on, but I agree.
I mean, we got like pipes around everywhere. I mean, it's brittle. But even if we don't have an earthquake here, and there's one in LA or somewhere, and we can spare a person, it's great experience for those guys to be able to see how that's handled, how it's fixed, how the pipes are sleeved in the ground without removing them, all kinds of interesting things go on during that, and I think it would be really beneficial for the crew.
I agree. I think
Plus
it sounds
us,
great.
plus
Yeah.
protecting us.
Now that's when we do our learning, even the COVID thing. I mean,
Right.
it's in emergencies that we get real smart. Okay, yeah, I would love to have that on agenda, and I think the board would want to do it. Yeah. Okay, so then we go to the secretary treasurer report. Oh, excuse me. Legal. I'm sorry, Rick. Maybe it's a little camera icon, but I'm not doing very good at including you. You need to be back at the table.
I just unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I am just going to report on a recent Court of Appeal case dealing with the issue of bias of board members when they're making a decision on a project. And the facts in this case, a case just came down about a week ago by the Court of Appeals, dealt with the approval of a gas station, a conditional use permit for a gas station project. And by a city, one of the city council members was determined to have a real bias against the project to the point where he couldn't, his participating in the vote disqualified the whole action just because he was so biased. So the facts here, first off, we were dealing with what's called a quasi judicial capacity of the city council members. And same types of capacities apply to you as board members. And you really wear two different hats as board members. One, you act in a legislative capacity when you adopt an ordinance or resolution or take action on routine district business. That's legislative or non-judicial type of activity and authority that you have. You also act in a quasi-judicial capacity when you're hearing evidence, considering facts, and making decisions that affect individual rights. And an example of that is if, it'd be this case where a permit was issued by the planning commission, it got appealed to the city council, and the city council is listening to the evidence and is going to make a ruling in the way that a judge makes a ruling as to whether or not it's going to issue the permit. I think it's probably also a quasi-judicial capacity that you're acting in when you consider a request to refund fees like you had on your agenda tonight. You're considering the facts and you're making a decision in the same way that a judge would make a decision on a particular set of facts. So important to understand that in this case, the city council was acting in a quasi-judicial capacity because they were considering an appeal of a permit. And the court started off by saying, if you're going to vote on this, you have to be neutral and unbiased. And that means you can't have a personal conflict of interest. You can't be prejudiced. You can't prejudge the facts, and you have to be free of prejudice against the parties. So those are all very different standards from the kinds of things that that I often advise boards on, and that's conflicts of interest, where you've got a personal financial interest in the outcome of the decision, because it'll affect a source of income, employment of you or a spouse, or it will be it'll result in compensation to you because you're appointing yourself to a committee or an association. Those are personal financial interests that require you to recuse yourself, and those are different from what the court was talking about here, where you've just got a bias, a personal stake in it. And you don't actually see these kinds of issues come up very often. So it was interesting to see the court's analysis. But in this case, one of the city council members was a resident of a nearby neighborhood and a former board member of the neighborhood association that was opposed to the gas station. And he had engaged in activities that ended up being a problem. He was actually the head of the neighborhood association at one point, and he was at meetings that produced talking points against the project. And he actually lined up the votes in advance on the city council necessary to kill the project. So the evidence showed that he intended to be the one to make the motion. And what ultimately played out was the city council denied the project on a 7-2 vote. So it wasn't like he was the swing vote or the only vote against it, but because his involvement and his bias was so pervasive, they found that it couldn't be viewed as a harmless error. And the fact that he wasn't the only vote or the swing vote didn't matter. And it wasn't just a technical error there, but that there was a fundamental flaw in the process that required the vote to be voided altogether.
It sounds a lot like a Brown Act violation to me, if he is like rigging the vote ahead of time. And
no, I think that's a good point. And I had the same thought. The decision doesn't talk about the Brown Act. It seems to me like he would clearly violate the Brown Act if he was lining up the votes ahead of time, but that wasn't the issue that the court was focusing on here.
And what court is this again?
Court of Appeals, 3rd District Court of Appeal. And
where is that?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to look that up where they're.
Oh, I just wondered because in certain courts, I have biases against certain courts of appeal. Yeah, it's an interesting case. Go on. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
So one thing to note though is that the court did recognize that public officials have the right to speak and express their views on matters of public interest without having to be recused for bias. You can have your opinion on a project. But in this case, when you look at the emails that were circulated, everything that this guy did in the run-up before the vote on the project, the court said, in quotes, "You crossed the line." And his statement that he had the votes and his plan for bringing the motion demonstrated that he had prejudged the matter. He had a pre-hearing commitment to an outcome. So it's clear he wasn't going to listen to the evidence. He wasn't going to consider the public testimony at the hearing or any of that. He'd made up his mind. He'd lined up the votes. He was saying, "I'm going to make a motion to deny it." That was just such a fundamental flaw that the developer in this case couldn't get a fair hearing. And so the whole action was voided. So I guess what I would emphasize here is that you do have the right to have an opinion, a personal opinion on projects.
Of course we do.
Out of agency service agreements or anything like that. You do have that right. You just can't cross the line by doing the kind of things that the city council member did in this case.
No, it sounds like he was getting involved in making a certain outcome a certain way. But yes. I would say when you talk about quasi-judicial role of people who are serving on boards, one difference is we get voted out. Some judges can too, but that's not as common, and some
Right.
judges don't get voted out. But I like to use the example, there are people who are pro-life. There are people who are very anti-fossil fuel, and they're not going to approve anything to do with fossil fuel, and they have that bias. And there are people, a lot of people that we know personally that serve, that go into everything with that bias. So it's an interesting case, and I look forward to reading more about it in depth. It sounds like this guy was doing more than just having something that he believed.
Right. Yeah, in this case, he crossed the line according to the court.
Okay, well, that's an interesting one. Thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, now we move on to the Secretary Treasurer.
Okay, first thing, elections are coming up. We have Director Jones, Director Mueller, and Director Redford seats that are coming up. And the candidate filing period opens July 13th and closes at 5 p.m. on August 7th. The filing period will be extended to 5 p.m. on August 12th for anyone other than the incumbents. If they file, and if the incumbent or anyone of the incumbents from the district with boards elected at large has not filed by 5 p.m. on August 20th. Paul Hood, the LAFCO executive officer, has passed away. So I had spoke to Craig Geyer, and they're trying to get everything together. So condolences to the LAFCO board and commissioners and Jacqueline of the county and Paul Hood's family. And then I was asked by the County of Santa Barbara Flood Control if we could post a notice for a public hearing. And that public hearing is for the Santa Barbara County Flood Control and Water Conservation District. Are holding a public hearing for a benefit assessment that they're proposing to be levied, and it's containing the amount of proposed benefit assessment for each such parcel that has been prepared and filed with the clerk of the board. I have the email that shows that report, but the assessment is based on the land use and size, and the residents in San Ynez will be affected by this. As far as I could tell.
Do you understand?
I have no idea what you're saying, but it sounds like
It's a
people
tax.
want to post something to announce to us that we're all going to get taxed, kind of like that new fire tax that hit us several
So,
years ago.
They're doing a
Yeah.
benefit assessment hearing to propose some kind of fee to the residents of San Ynez.
What, does it specify what that fee is? What are we getting in return?
It says it's the flood control benefit assessment. And
Oh, let's get a good turnout at this meeting, folks.
they're amending ordinance 3150. So it's possible that it's an assessment that we're already paying, but I don't know.
So your tax assessment, flood control district assessment?
Right, and you know, that's a great place to slip stuff in if you want to charge more.
It's why lower the sewer people?
It all adds up. California.
We only want to pay it when it's flooding.
I could handle a flood right
So they just
now.
want to put a notice here, they're not having a meeting here.
No, they're having a meeting at the board of supervisors, and that will be Tuesday, June 2nd at 9 a.m.
Well, if they open meetings up for public to participate, it's, you know, you can send them a letter with your question now.
And on June 16th at 9, or soon thereafter in the board of supervisors hearing.
Ah, post it on the website, as a matter of fact, for the 7 people that go there. Yeah.
Do they
Talk to people.
use a monetary figure on how much they would like in cash for their benefit assessment?
No, because it's based on land size, land use and size. And it was, what I saw, I didn't look through because it's like a 40-page stuff. It's very convoluted.
That's on purpose.
You know, on Willow Street, they just put in all that underground water for the drain. Now we have a gigantic lake right on top of the manhole that's set too low. During the wet part of the winter, we have a lake at the bottom of Willow Street.
Well, that's what the benefit assessment's gonna take care of. The
Right.
problem that they created. Now they're gonna charge you to fix it.
And they'll hire some people to answer our questions when we're unhappy.
Well, they're putting, I mean, they do that whole Faraday storm drain, Edison storm drain project as
It's
well.
not finished.
They need to get up to Seguno and Edison.
It's
That's
not
a lake.
tax.
I can't even cross the
It's a
street there when it
benefit
rains.
assessment. It's kind of smooth tone to it, doesn't it?
So,
No, but we're very excited about it and we look forward
it's
to
a public
posting it.
hearing. I brought it in case this is the first one we've ever gotten. So, if you'd like to attend, or I can send you the public hearing notice. The website that they have on here, it didn't work, so I asked the leaders to resend the website. So I have the website of where it shows everything, you know, like.
The website on the notice didn't work? This franchising. Website. I'm gonna go up
I
to
like
meeting.
that.
I don't even live in the county.
Oh, that's great. A warm body. We'll take you.
So if you're interested, I can send it to you.
Well, I'm saying post it in our little glass case out there, but I get, the county stuff to go to meetings, but now there's no going to meeting. Yeah, you can send them in a question. You don't see, when that landslide happened, every politician in the county was lined up for the updates on the 5 o'clock news.
Got a lot more to get through.
Well, you're not seeing that happening. Okay, so on to, oh, you still have something else?
No, just before we, move on to director's comments in the closed session, we need to tell Rick that we're not gonna do it by Zoom, and for him to call in.
Oh, Rick, did you hear that? Maybe not. His microphone is off. Ask him.
Okay, here I am. No, I couldn't catch that.
We would like you to call in rather than Zoom on the closed session.
Okay.
Can you do that? Or we can
Uh,
call you.
Yes, I can certainly do that.
We just thought it sounded a little easier.
Okay.
Okay, but next then we are going to move on. Committee reports. We had the financial committee meet. Is there anything that we need to report beyond what we discussed? Okay, and director's comments. Anything that you would like to say?
I'd like to say a lot of things. I think it's time, we have some things that we're going through, put out a notice to the community that we're working on Horizon. We have transfer, we have a new manager, general manager coming in, and just apprise the community as that we're here doing things. Last time we did, it's been a year. Okay.
I like that. And we might want to, after our closed meeting, I'll know more, but include the new manager in on, like, I don't know how
Yeah.
close the deal is, but yeah, I think it's time. And I was cleaning my desk off and saw the little postcard that we sent asking people not to flush their wipes. And I thought, why couldn't we done this 3 years ago? Just like send a postcard. I like that. It was really nice.
You can include eggshell in that. Eggshell is murdering.
I would never put anything like that down. What are people
Put it in the
thinking?
carburetor all the time. Throw the eggshell. Then
I-
fix the line.
Do you have a comment? John, I would like to thank you for navigating us
Oh,
through
yeah.
this
Thank you.
time and,
Appreciate that.
getting us to this point and giving us some new ideas
It's been,
and guiding us.
it's been an interesting and good experience for me too. It's been
You're not leaving yet.
sharpen the skills. We'll wait till we get to the next item, but, no, not right away.
Yes, we gave a 15-day notice.
I did, I gave 15 notice, but director.
Well, do we have, let me ask you this. What if we don't accept it? No.
I appreciate that. It's been a good experience.
Yeah.
Hope we got a few things wrong there.
On top of everything else, you did a lot of transition work. We threw a lot of stuff at you. It was a hassle. But you know, he had a great attitude. I think the board has a good attitude. We try to keep some levity and mix it with the insanity. So we leave here and they'll go.
You don't do that when you leave here?
That's for the president. But you have a great sense of humor, which
Right.
comes out, and I try to banter with you back
I
and
know,
forth.
I appreciate that. Well,
You know what else you have, John? You have really strong documentation skills. And when you were talking about the sewer update, the SS whatever, it's so important. That's a really important thing because it doesn't happen if you don't document it properly. And so I'm glad that you've set that tone and that you get that.
The
Grateful.
crew will, Craig knows that, and he knows it's just tough to write things down. Guys like to do the work, they don't like to write it down.
But you get trained and you get little systems or you get a program that makes it easy. And
So we're talking about putting out a flyer.
yeah, just a little letter. You probably got one a year ago.
What if we also include one of the employees, like a little write-up on employees, any training they've done or how long, like maybe Craig's been here forever, or Wendy or John or whatever, and you did that every year or every 6 months or whatever. Just, it's kind of an attaboy to, you know, the crew.
And a way to
Appreciation,
engage,
and
yes.
let the people here also know about who they're paying for and what they're doing.
And who the guy in the truck is that they see driving, but they don't know he's a water guy or whatever. They don't know. I think that's great. And I also, once again, want to include our new manager. If we still have a new manager, I don't know. We've got a closed meeting coming
You
up.
know, Madam President, if you don't stop complimenting him, the next thing he's gonna do, he's gonna want to raise.
Well, that is a neat idea, and I used to do that in a newsletter from the staff every 6 months, and by the time you only last for 2 years, and you're out of staff, but for the manager, at the very least, I was gonna prepare a press release. The whole
Yes.
community, and Solvang, even not within our community. Here's who the new individual is, where he's come from, and, you know, Marine Corps and everything else.
It's something we have not done, and that's great.
Oh, yeah.
The press releases, we've talked about it, but we haven't got them. And we have papers that are looking for content, and you read what are in the free papers. It's exactly that. And people would love to meet this guy and, oh yeah, I remember him from Solvang.
We'll grab it. The employee, it won't be the general manager the first time, it can be someone else, but the GM will at least get a press release.
Yes.
To the,
Yes.
to the community, the Buellton, Solvang, whatever.
Just in Santa Maria. I mean, he's Central Coast. I think that's great. Yes. So now that's it for committee reports, director's comments. So we're going to go into closed session.
And so you might need to close the room.
Yeah, so going to adjourn the open session at 8:02 and go into closed session. But we may walk slowly into closed session because I have to hit the ladies' room. Call that Jack. Not like it. I couldn't tell the water guys from the community service district. It's just kind of nice. It helps.